We are joined this morning by Dr. Charity Smith, who is an Assistant Commissioner for Education with the Arkansas Department of Education. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Smith. We're also joined by Mr. Quentin Romanos, who is a member of the Board of Directors with the National Indian Education Association. Mr. Romanos is also a tribal education leader. And correct me if I'm wrong, sir, I believe you are Cheyenne. Okay, I was glad I got it right. And we're also joined by Ms. Dua Ta, who is the Executive Director with the Southeast Asia Resource Action Center. So to get us started this morning, let me introduce Dr. Charity Smith, who will come to us first, and then we will move forward. Dr. Smith.
Good morning. It is a pleasure for me to be here with you today. And I want to take you down a road called data. You know, Robert Frost said, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all of the difference. You may wonder why in the world would someone from Arkansas be coming to you talking about data, because for years and years, the perception was that Arkansas was leaving far too many children behind. I am pleased to say that in many times past, people used to jokingly say, thank goodness for a different state, because Arkansas ranked 49th, and that state ranked 50th. However, this January, according to Education Week, Arkansas now ranks 8th. Impressive. That has happened since 2001. Now, what did we do differently? We started to mine our data systems. And let me tell you the kinds of data that we had to mine. We had to look at the achievement data. We had to look at the perceptual data. We had to look at educational programs. And we also had to begin to look at data as it related to instructional practices for youngsters. So those three pieces of information were extremely beneficial to us. And then there was one other piece that we looked at, and that was teacher quality issues. Because, see, the research tells you that the single most important factor in improving performance is the quality of the teacher, but very seldom do people disaggregate the data to see if, in fact, the teacher is prepared to teach that subject in which he is assigned to. Far too often, children of color are assigned to teachers who are teaching out of field or out of area. We had to go in and take a look at that and rearrange how we do teaching in Arkansas. And now Arkansas in teacher quality ranks 3rd in the nation. But it was because we had to have a very thorough look at what we were doing. Far too many of our middle school teachers were licensed elementary and did not have the math content necessary to drive the reform that we needed in algebra and those kinds of areas. So I want to talk to you basically about 3 things, and that's the rhetoric, the reality, and the reform. When you listen to the pundits and we talk about leave no child behind, and as the data person captain for Arkansas, I can take the data sets for a particular school and lay it right beside that mission statement that all kids can learn, or we're not going to leave any kids behind. And it'll show me a different tale. It'll show me how many kids are left behind, and I can almost name them by color, by zip code, by regions of the state, and then, of course, regions of this country. And it's time for us to do something radically different than we've been doing in the past. Educators can no longer rely on intuition and tradition and feel-good metrics and measures to transform performance in this country. We have to begin to look at the hard things, the hard stuff, and that is to actually look at data systems. Now, what can data do for you? When we began to look at data in Arkansas, I wanted to be sure that, first of all, children of color had access to quality education. Now, some of you think, well, we've been at this desegregation game for many, many years, so all kids have access. Yes, all kids are in the same building, but all kids don't have access to the same high-quality education. When we began to disaggregate data by classes, even course titles don't mean that that course is rigorous enough. And then all too often, youngsters, particularly of color, low socioeconomic, that kind of thing, are relegated in many instances to remedial and less rigorous classes. I call that a systems-induced gap. Those kids come to school ready to learn, but they've been sorted and selected in different groups. When I talk to kids, they call it like this, the bluebird group and the redbird group, and some of them even call it the dodo bird group, and you know which group people group kids in. Now, those things are unfortunate, and so when you group kids like that and they stay in these groups for the rest of their natural lives, then you create systems-induced gaps. Or when kids are actually in grade 5 and the teacher is teaching at grade level 4, you create a systems-induced gap. That's some of the reality. Another reality in gap making, there's a gap between what employers want kids to be able to do when they come out of high school and what kids are actually able to do, when in fact we haven't taken a look at the data set by child and by teacher and by classroom to see what it is that kids actually need. They do have deficits, but all of these deficits can be overcome if, in fact, we apply those instructional technologies and methodologies that help kids perform better. And we can do that, and we are in the business of doing that. What Arkansas has done, we have a good, clean, moving distribution of performance. Those kids who were below basic are moving to basic, and those who were basic are moving to proficiency and then to advanced. See, our goal is not just to get all kids to proficiency. You want to be sure that all kids improve. And that's a different kind of goal. And so what the data will show, that even kids who are high performing could learn more if you disaggregated their data sets, because far too often some of them are sitting in classes not studying afterwards, and they are not globally competitive. They are maybe the brightest kids that we have, but they're not globally competitive. And you begin to look at these kinds of data sets, and they make a difference.